Minister, I think it's quite incredible that we've another discussion on the European Council and not a single mention from the Taoiseach in his own introduction of the discussions going on in relation to the TTIP. I think it's quite ironic that we've just had a vote in the Seanad about protecting our water supply ultimately, but if this agreement goes ahead, the decision of the Irish people or any other European nation to protect its own resources could be seriously in jeopardy with this agreement that's being discussed behind the scenes. And you know, every time we try and bring this up in the chamber here, the government has a sort of a standard response. Well, it exists and it's good for jobs. Minister Bruton even went as far as to say that it would deliver 8,000 extra jobs for Ireland and we'd see an increase in GDP of 1.1%. Completely plucked out of the sky, no substantial research at all in relation to verify those figures, not to mind the bad analysis, if you like, of GDP, given the transfer pricing, profit repatriation and so on, and indeed the nature of the jobs that your government has created. The reality is that the TTIP serves as a very great threat. There is no transparency whatsoever. I think the leaked documents from them, which describes the sensitive regulatory alignments, will take place in private meetings in the proposed joint EU-US regulatory forum, meaning anything that comes out on paper is going to be ignored behind the scenes later on. And while the government seems determined to keep this under wraps, in fairness, I do think that Irish farmers have begun to notice that their livelihoods will be in danger if these trade talks and this agreement goes ahead, because what we have is the harmonisation of agribusiness trade legislation will in essence flood Europe with previously banned US beef. US beef which is not labelled, which has been filled with genetically modified contents and bad practice, which is going to force Irish farmers to lower their standards in order to compete with the same. Similarly, threats from GMO crops and so on. And when the Taoiseach talks about this agreement being good for us and good for business, what does he mean? I mean, the reality is behind this agreement that what the government is calling the removal of trade barriers is actually the removal of protections that were there in order to protect the public from multinationals and those who are just interested in earning a fast buck. And that's really what this agreement is about. I'd expect nothing less from Fine Gael, being a party of big business. You know, when the Taoiseach talks about sometimes we need a dispute resolution mechanism, who is the we that he is talking about? Is the we the people of Egypt, whose government were sued by a French multinational for raising the minimum wage? Is it the people of Germany, who were sued by the nuclear industry for shutting down their nuclear industry? And this is the direction our government will go in terms of water. I think it's ironic that the big mass movement on October the 11th on these streets coincided with a movement of European citizens in Hamburg, London, Paris and so on against the TTIP, and yet you and your government haven't even deigned to have these issues discussed in this chamber, despite the very serious threat they are to Irish citizens.